Hi again guys, I am Nicolene, here today with Education 220. So today we're going to be focusing on Piaget, Vygotsky and Bronfman Brenner. Basically, if you want to understand what this whole theory of cognitive development is about, you have to consider thinking about the fact that it is three men who are trying to answer, how does a child learn? Okay, so Piaget thinks that a child learns inside out, and Vygotsky disagrees. He says a child learns outside in, and then Bronfman Brenner says, well, it's a bit of both. Basically, a child learns from the environment that they're in. He says it's an ecological system that a child learns. So now, we're trying to answer now. According to Piaget, a child learns A child learns through internal development, meaning that a child learns internally first and then expresses what the child has learned through their internal development. So when you look at Piaget, he says that a child is tabula rasa. A child is an empty slate that needs to be given things before they can actually learn. We will look at the fact that he emphasizes that there are stages of development for a child to learn, meaning that a child needs to grow into a certain stage before they are able to grasp certain things. Okay, and one of the highlights is also the fact that his theory is called cognitive constructivism. Okay, Vygotsky also agrees. He says this type of learning is constructivism, but according to him, it's not just cognitive constructivism, it's social cognitive constructivism. Bronfman Brenner, as I've said, he talks about an ecological approach. Okay, so now when we are looking at the stages of development, of course there are four stages of development. There's the sensory motor stage, the pre-operational stage, there's the concrete operational stage, and the formal operational stage, which everyone's on if you are above the age of 12 years old. Alright, so now when we are looking at the sensory motor stage, Piaget says it begins at birth, meaning that the child is only able to focus on a little toy. A child is only able to focus on a sound, on a beep, on a tweet, on a lullaby. That is all that a child is able to focus on when a child is still on the sensory motor stage, meaning that the main focus of the child is depending highly on their senses, the sense of touch, of smell, of hearing, of taste. That is all they are able to communicate with as well. So if you want a child's attention, you can clap your hands, call the child, you can sing to the child, you can stand in front of the child and clap to them. That is how they develop. That is how they're able to see that you are actually wanting to communicate with them. So they will smile. If they're not happy, they will cry. That's the sensory motor stage. There is no form of logic. Everything is based on objects, on colors, on sound, on taste, on smell. Okay. And then we are looking at the pre-operational stage. The pre-operational stage appears at the age of 2 years old, about to the age of 5, where the child is learning how to talk. The child is learning how to walk. The child is discovering and exploring all the events that occur in their situation around them. So now when in this stage, the child is still void of logic, but has developed a notch higher from depending highly on their senses. The child is now an explorer. The child is egocentric. Everything that the child sees belongs to the child. I'm sure you can relate if you've got little siblings at home, that if you give them something, okay, and they will quickly run to it because they believe that egocentrically it belongs to them. So the child at this stage is egocentric, the child at this stage is exploring, the child in this stage is wondering why a ball is round. The child at this stage, if you take a ball and throw it the other side, the child will cry thinking that the ball has disappeared, things like that. This is where the child is exploring the situation. This is where the child has not developed logical explanations for the situation. Okay. Now we're looking at the concrete operational stage. It appears around the age of 6 and 7. This is when the child is entering School, this is when the child is learning how to read and write. This is when the child is exploring a new world of logic. This is when logic actually comes into play, according to Piaget, because you teach the child how to read, how to write, how to count. The ABCs come in now. The 1, 2, 3s come in. The red, yellow, and blue come in. The months of the year come in. The days of the week comes in. This is when the child is able to grasp what you are teaching them, and they're able to give back to you. But logic is still not yet developed, but is in the beginning of its development. Alright. And then when we're looking at the last stage, where you are looking at the age of 11, 12 upwards, it is the formal, concrete operational stage, where the development of the love for reading is now much more stronger. The child is now able to know that they have hobbies. The child knows what they like, what they don't like. The child is able to understand complicated formulas. The child is able to understand certain worksheets and work that they are given by their teacher in the classroom, and they're able to logically think and give back a logical answer. This is when a child develops a love for maths, science. This is when a child understands that actually I am not a maths person, I am not a science person, I'm much more creative. This is when the child discovers talents, skills. This is when a child knows what they want to become once they grow older. That is all we have for the stages of development when it comes to Piaget. To add on a little on what Piaget says, he puts little emphasis on language. He says that language is just there to play the role of describing the situation around the child. It is not there to actually permeate a situation of creating a character-like role in the child's life. Okay, so what are the implications of teaching? The implications of teaching, it is when you will now gain an individualistic approach in the classroom, because you understand that each and every child has got their own way of cognitive development, their own way of understanding, their own way of grasping. So when you're looking at the teaching implications, you will support the children to explore their environment and discover knowledge in their own pace. Alright, that is Piaget. That is all we have for Piaget. If you have questions, you can drop them down on the comments, and we'll take it from there. All right. How to walk, to teach a child how this tastes like, what it is called, and so on and so forth. So when we're looking at Vygotsky, he does not pay much emphasis on stages. I suppose he believes that each child develops according to their own pace and their own environment.